Hello, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Banter, the podcast aimed at bringing you your dose of murder relaxation. So, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Oh, the lifestyle of a bar cart. Just
Girl.
the bar cart
Bar
itself.
cart
No,
girl,
no.
yeah.
Hello, everybody,
Hey.
and welcome to another episode of the True Crime Banter podcast. We are
It's
having
way
fun.
too hyped right now.
I'm way too
We
hyped
were
right
so
now.
chill before we got on here. I don't know where this is
I don't know.
coming
There's something
from.
about showtime. I
Okay.
just want to do these jazz
Oh,
hands.
God.
If anybody's
Oh,
watching
God.
us on YouTube, which, by the way,
You just lost 174 viewers.
whoa. Well, that's a good number because you said that for a reason. We are at 174 subscribers on YouTube,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
We were. Till you did jazz hands.
Well, you know, you got to risk it to get the biscuit because we're about to get billions of subscribers.
biscuits?
Of jazz
Stop.
hands.
We did
all right,
it.
All right.
okay.
Sorry. Anyways, I'm a little hyper right now. I don't know, something about
I think it's the apple juice. It's pure sugar.
true. Very true. You're not wrong about that. This is off to a great start. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Banter podcast. What I was saying is that we are at 174 subscribers. We've had a nice little bump in the last week or two on YouTube. And so
We'll take it.
if you guys are interested in video format or versions of this exact same podcast, feel free to go over there and subscribe. And also while you are at it, listener, talking in your ear holes right now, you can still go to Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and a review, and on Spotify you can leave ratings as well. So
And even if I feel like you're just like a YouTube person, there's some people that are just YouTube people. They don't have Apple Podcasts.
Right.
They don't do Spotify. There is like a little sub genre of people that really only have like one app and they
True.
only use that. You can still put us on YouTube and just like put us in your headphones and clean your car or whatever you do. You don't have to watch us.
yeah,
Like, you can
no,
still
yeah,
play
yeah.
it.
Obviously, you don't have to
Yeah.
sit here and watch this.
But some
video
people, when you say
version of
visual
it.
format, I feel like some people think
Something
like, oh,
to
if I want to
see.
watch it, like you really don't have to. I don't watch, quote unquote, watch half the true crime videos on YouTube.
No, yeah,
I just
yeah,
put
you
them on
listen
and
to
do
them
my
in the background.
makeup or
Exactly. So if you want to listen to
Water the
our
plants.
beautiful voices while you're doing your makeup in the morning, feel
Yeah.
free. Throw us on the YouTubes.
Yep.
Or I did, finally, after months and months, we're on Google Podcasts now as well.
Oh, cool.
So that Stitcher,
one more
Anchor.
thing to add to our post when I do a new
Ooh.
episode drop or whatever. It's like, check us out
Where,
on ...
where,
whatever.
Where
whatever.
can these viewers or listeners get
Where
these
do I even
posts?
start? What is it? YouTube, Apple
Well,
Podcasts, Spotify,
But these posts you're talking
Stitcher.
about is on Instagram.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I thought you
So-
meant what I say when I type it out.
Well, they could probably just read a post.
True. True.
Crime. Banter. Speaking of banter, bit of banter. You got a bit of banter for today, don't you?
Yeah, I think I had something else in mind and then realized it wasn't appropriate. So we're going to just switch gears here.
Let's do it.
We'll come back to the other one another time, but my dad does listen to this, so I'll come back another time.
Partially inappropriate. Not in any weird way.
Yeah,
you
not any
sickos.
crazy, but, you
Sheesh.
know,
Just-
father-daughter
yeah.
relationship. He doesn't always want to hear, like, gross things guys say to me. Anyway, so I was thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Riley and I have been doing a lot of, like, family stuff lately. And on his side, we have had a new addition to the family.
Yeah.
Little baby. And his name is Bounty.
Little Bounty.
Yes.
Yeah, so-
And I think these days we're used to hearing all kinds of names.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
It really is, especially in the last 5-ish years and so on. There's been so many different kinds of names out there, different kinds of spelling. There's TikToks that make fun of names and how they're spelled and all kinds of stuff. And obviously my name being traditionally a guy named Christian.
Yeah.
And then Riley being very gender
unisex.
neutral. Yeah.
Or duo sex.
Whatever.
However you want to look at
all
it.
the sexes.
Duality.
My sister's name is Joey, so obviously that's not normally a girl's name. And then my brother's name is Kai, Kai.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's just like names all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a preschool teacher for a few years. I have heard so many bizarre names, bizarre in the nicest way, just names that you'd never even thought. Like there was a kid named Trail, 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 and River has been done before. Willow, Willa. I mean,
Willie,
Darby.
Wale.
Darby was another one. That's old school. There's just so many. So I guess Bounty, when he entered the world a couple months ago, or 2 months ago, whatever it was, that was a name that I guess I would have never even contemplated.
Yeah,
Not in a bad way, just, oh, yeah, that's right. I guess you could name your kid that. Like, I didn't even think about that.
It was a point of contention for my brother and sister-in-law that nobody was going to know the name before he was actually here.
It was very Kardashian of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking it was going to be like North or Eastern.
Okay, anyway.
Anyways.
Yeah.
And yeah, so finally, obviously, he arrived.
Yeah.
And Bounty was the name. And like you
Yep.
said, it's like, they even said it themselves. That's not a name you find in a baby book.
Right.
Or really any baby name list that they looked at.
Yeah.
And that's a little more uncommon, I think, to find a name that hasn't ever been done. You know, like you said with River.
I mean, Bounty's been done. It just hasn't been done to anyone we know, for sure. It's very much like, I think, like a country-ish kind of sounding name. Yeah. But yeah, there's been other names that we've heard of, like, okay, that's interesting. Like when people spell Ashley with like 5 I's and E's, and like, okay,
and
all right,
somewhere
in there, the G is silent and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I guess, what is the question we're posing here for the banter? Like, what are some interesting names you've heard? Like, what are the craziest,
most interesting, crazy,
the weirdest, the most
Do you have a weird name?
Yeah, maybe you have a funky freaking name.
I'll tell you what, growing up for me, I mean, I'm sure for you still get it now.
Yeah.
In fact, you have a story about like an Asian lady saying, but that's a boy's name. Or something
oh,
like
yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
So I knew...
It's mainly like, quote unquote, like foreign people
Yeah.
that don't understand why my name would be Christian. Like, they understand that is my name, but they don't understand why. And I don't really know what to tell them because I didn't choose it. So, yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I didn't have any part to play in that, so I don't know.
Yeah, and me growing up wasn't more of a... I mean, I knew more girls named Riley than other boys named Riley.
Yeah.
But it was always, that's like a dog's name. I knew a lot of dogs that were named Riley. So
mine is always followed with, oh, your name's Christian? Are you a Christian? And I was like, wow, that's appropriate. People were just asking
I'm Hindu.
Religious backgrounds of people. Like, you don't even know anything about me. But
True, yeah.
Let's talk religion.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So, for our bit of banter question today, we're going to talk about religion.
Cool. Yeah. No.
So, Christian, are you Christian?
We can't get into that right now.
So, yeah, you guys, if you have any weird names out there, whether it's your
or cool,
interesting...
or funky.
Or anything that
yeah.
I guess would spark a good conversation, I guess, you know, comments of like a Instagram post or YouTube.
Yeah,
or
and honestly,
who knows?
like, you guys, I have been collecting baby names since I was probably a baby myself, you know, for the future, wink, wink. So I'm always looking for names. So
yeah, so
if some of these are
any
cool, I might
suggestions?
steal them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you have a fun story or something about what a
those are
stranger
cool.
did with you, or misinterpreted your name, or calls you Relay
What
instead
a
of
stranger
Riley.
did with you.
well, because of your name, maybe? Are you Christian?
Mark.
Can I interest you in teaching
you
about the Lord and
what
Savior?
A stranger did with you?
So there we go.
Maybe seek therapy first and then contact
then
us.
comment on an Instagram post. Okay, well,
anyway,
how do we segue on a segue into today's case? So, today's case I will be covering, and it's been a while since I've covered, or I guess presented a case
Yeah, it
to
feels
the
weird.
listeners. So I wasn't a big fan of actually having to do work this time. But
Hey, I'm here.
you know this case.
Yeah.
I
So
think
I'm
you know it
just-
pretty well.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's going to be a lot of
so I'm just
info.
gonna shut up. Yeah.
Yeah, could you?
Yeah.
For once.
I know. It's hard.
But this is a very gruesome case. Obviously tragic. There is death
Yeah.
involved. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's go ahead and we're going to get into it. And let's just see how you guys like it. April 22nd, 1974, Ogden, Utah. Orrin William Walker enters the hi-fi shop off of Washington Boulevard. What happens over the next 3 hours is a case of torture, rape, and eventual murder that not only shocks the entire city, but sparks controversy across the nation. This is the case of the hi-fi murders. This story begins not in the shoes of Orrin Walker himself, but instead the shoes of his son, 20-year-old Stanley Walker, and Stanley's co-worker, 18-year-old Michelle Ansley. Stanley Walker is an employee at the hi-fi shop who I could only imagine was tasked with showing Michelle Ansley the ropes. And I say this because at this point, Michelle, she'd been working at the hi-fi shop for only a week. Now, for those of, I guess, our listeners who are unsure of what the hi-fi shop is, it is a store where people, I guess, go purchase high-end home audio equipment. Hence, high fidelity is what, I guess,
Yeah.
audiophiles call it. Imagine what someone would purchase if they wanted to set up like a home theater.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is back in the 70s, so audio equipment back then, much different than it is today. This night of horrors really begins a bit earlier in the day. A 16-year-old boy named Courtney Nesbitt stops into the hi-fi shop. He asks Stanley and Michelle if it's all right for him to park his car there in their store parking lot while he finished up a few things that he needed to get done in the area. They, of course, told Courtney, absolutely, no problem at all. And for that, Corey was thankful, as I guess anybody would be. So thankful, in fact, that once he finished up what he needed to do, Courtney decided to step back into the hi-fi shop before heading to his car, just to tell them thank you once again for letting him park there. This last quick little visit from Courtney, it takes place about, I guess, just before 6 p.m., right before the store is about to close. And by sheer unfortunate luck, what Courtney walks in on is not Stanley and Michelle locking things up, singing Semisonic's Closing Time, but it was 21-year-old Pierre Dale Selby and 19-year-old William Andrews, two current members of the U.S. Air Force, both armed with guns and both attempting to rob the hi-fi store. Now, I do want to say that the names in this story can get confusing, especially if you listen to them or to this case multiple times, because the names that some of the victims use are their middle names. And then same with Pierre Selby. A lot of people call him Dale Pierre because of where he's from, Trinidad and
Okay.
I forget where William Andrews is actually from. But yeah, the names get like mixed up depending on who you're listening to or what documentary you're watching. So I'm just going to call them Pierre and William.
Okay.
The two airmen had already tied up Stanley and Michelle and brought them down into the basement. Upon seeing Courtney walking in, they quickly did the same to him. Outside of the hi-fi shop parked a getaway van driven by 20-year-old Keith Roberts, who was also in the U.S. Air Force at the time. With the three young adults locked away in the basement, hands and feet both tied up, the two airmen had free rein to pack away as much audio equipment as they pleased into the van outside. Of these three criminals, Pierre Selby, who, like I said, I'm just going to refer to as Pierre moving forward, he was considered the ringleader of this group. Not even a year earlier, Pierre was being investigated for possible murder of another member of the Air Force. And to go back a little bit further than that, Pierre, he had actually begun a car scamming or a car dealership scanning business, I should say. It's hard to explain. So basically what he would do, he would go to different car dealerships throughout the area, test drive a car. During that test drive, back in the 70s, where I guess you didn't need, I guess even nowadays you don't need a car salesman or an employee of the dealership to be with you on the test drive. But he would take the car back to the Air Force base, convince the Air Force locksmith to make a duplicate key of that car, and then like a few days or weeks later, he would go back and steal the car. So that was his weird, I guess, first run-in or issue with the law. Obviously not his last. So officers, they believe that Pierre was called out for doing this by a coworker in the Air Force. And it was that coworker who was eventually found dead, brutally murdered after being stabbed directly into the face multiple times.
Oh my God. Anytime I hear anybody being stabbed in the face or like the head, when someone's like, yeah, I was stabbed in the skull, I'm like, ew.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah. A little
like
foreshadowing.
Stab somewhere
Anything
where there's
going
some
into the
meat
skull
or something, but
is
ew.
terrible.
Ugh.
I know, because like
You might as well
it
stab
takes
like
so
the
much
hardwood
force,
floor
right?
or something. It's just weird.
I think that's what it is too. It's the amount of force that it takes. Almost like if you want to stab someone with like a spoon.
Like, listen, it doesn't. I'm sure it takes a lot of strength to get through the skull, if you can.
Right.
The skull is like fucking rock, right? Like
Yeah.
it's. No, I'm not gonna say impossible. That's not true, but very hard
Yeah. Well,
to
yeah.
stab through the skull. Why wouldn't you just stab them in their back or their leg or
Right,
like
or
somewhere
the
where there's
chest
like
or something
it
where
can
it's like
do
more,
something?
Yeah, more fleshy.
Yeah,
more skinny.
in the head, in the face.
Yeah, to the face.
Like-
And this is why
Ugh.
officers kind of believe it was Pierre. Now, I do have to put out there they've never fully convicted Pierre for this or even been able
course
to
not.
convict him for it. So I'm not saying Pierre did this, but they believe Pierre did it because of the brutality of the murder.
Yeah.
It must have been someone close that wanted to clearly injure this coworker.
Well, and
in
who
the Air Force.
knows if they would have caught him or whatever, especially if DNA was better and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. Maybe this whole thing wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. In fact, I put right here, investigators at that time were unable to prove that Pierre had been the one to commit the crime,
Of course.
thus leaving Pierre a free man and possibly costing the lives of others.
Yeah. Okay.
So remember, at the beginning of this case, I told you this takes place over a 3-hour span. Pierre Selby and William Andrews must have been taking their sweet time unloading this, loading this equipment into the getaway van, because nearly an hour goes by when Stanley Walker's dad, Orrin Walker, grows concerned, knowing that his son should have been home by now.
Yeah, I remember this part. It's so sad.
Yeah, so what does Orrin do? He decides to pay the hi-fi shop a visit just to make sure everything's okay. Prior to entering the hi-fi shop, Orrin actually walks past the van being loaded with stolen equipment. But to him, it was simply equipment being loaded for transportation, whether it was from a vendor or going to a customer. He didn't think anything of it. Once he's inside, though, Orrin realizes that is not the situation, as Pierre and William, they get a hold of him as well, tie him up, and lock him in the basement with the rest of the hostages. So they're now up to 4 hostages.
I'm just trying to be a good dad.
Yeah, and it gets worse. Like I said, 4 hostages, and what was meant to be a simple heist is turning into an absolute shit show. And before the 2 airmen can figure out what the hell they're going to do with these people, sadly, a 5th person walks into the store. Carol Nesbitt, the mother of Courtney Nesbitt. She, of course, was doing the exact same thing that Orrin was doing and didn't see Courtney at dinner. He was supposed to come home for dinner. So she went driving and saw Courtney's car parked in the parking lot of the hi-fi shop, walked in to make sure everything was all right, and to which she was then also captured, tied up, and locked in the basement. So here we are, 5 total hostages, and Pierre Selby is starting to panic. That is, until he thinks back to his inspiration for this attempted robbery. You see, Pierre Selby is often referred to as a copycat killer, because just a few months prior to committing this crime, there was a movie that was released called Magnum Force, which is a sequel to the Clint Eastwood classic Dirty Harry. So this is at the very end of 1973 that this movie came out. And so this was a film that officers say Pierre went and saw 3 times in the theater, and up to like 6 total times or 7 total times before actually committing this crime. In the movie Magnum Force, a couple of criminals, they decided to rob a supermarket store, which made Pierre think, I could do that, and sparked the beginning of this plan to rob the hi-fi shop. However, in Magnum Force, there's also a scene where a pimp murders a prostitute. I've never seen this movie. Have you?
I believe so when I was like super, super young. Because my dad made me watch a lot of Clint Eastwood movies before I was probably old enough to watch them.
Wait, you mean like a 7-year-old shouldn't be watching a pimp murder a prostitute?
Listen, I'm not going to go too far off, but I remember watching one of them. I can't remember which one it was, but that whole series of Dirty Harry, like The Gauntlet, like all of these like Dirty Harry movies back in the day, like Clint Eastwood, all those, especially back when he was like young, right? And then like all the spaghetti westerns after that, like Clint. different thing. The westerns were a different vibe, right? But like the whole like 80s, 70s cop like kind of thing. Yeah, I definitely watched all those. But I remember one scene, I don't remember which movie this is from, but I remember there's a scene where somebody is snorting cocaine off of a raw steak.
Okay.
And I don't remember if this is like a girl or a guy, like, but they were definitely like some kind of mob or something. I promise this is going to be over in just a second. But they're snorting some cocaine. I'm 99% sure. I just remember I was a child. Okay. And they're snorting cocaine with a straw. And while they're sniffing something, they say something that pisses somebody off. And the person slams their head into the straw, and the straw goes up their nose into their brain. And I remember this very vividly when I was like 5 years old.
More foreshadowing.
That. Yeah. Anyway, I remember that. That was like a very vivid scene. And then
you just said you were like 5 years old.
Yeah, and then
that sounds about right.
Of course, they were screaming and whatever.
That's the target demographic for those movies.
My dad was like, "Yeah, puts hair on your chest.
Christian,
that's
right.
Yeah, you got this.
You're a Christian.
You're good.
Your name is Christian. You should be a
boy." It's my childhood, so keep going. Going.
Okay, so sounds back to Magnum Force.
Also, hi, Dad, if you're listening. Love you. Keep going.
So also in Magnum Force, you guys, I swear her dad is a very good dad to her.
He is, I promise. I promise,
please
guys.
Don't call Child
I'm
Protective
okay,
Services
obviously. With the murder podcast, I'm fine.
Okay, so again, also in Magnum Force, there is a scene that I was just referring to. A pimp murders a prostitute by making her drink Drano, which is the like drain cleaning formula or fluid.
Don't remember that at all.
Well, all right. Well, that's good. Good.
Cool.
I guess as a 7-year-old,
right.
you probably shouldn't.
Probably blocked it out.
Yeah. Pierre, being the genius mastermind that he is, he thinks, you know what? I've got a great idea. I know exactly what we're gonna do to solve this little hostage issue that we've got going on here at the hi-fi shop. And there's conflicting reports as to whether he brought the Drano with him or if they just went to the bathroom and found the Drano itself. I'm assuming that he probably brought it with him because I don't know why you would need Drano in like a business bathroom. Because usually that's more like hair clogging, or if a sink clogs, you could use it. But I'm going to go with the reports that he brought it himself. Basically calculating that he was going to use this at some point. So, what does Pierre do? He leaves the basement, goes and gets some drain cleaner. He then has William pour the bright blue-colored drain cleaner into 5 cups and tells the 5 hostages to drink up. He tells them, "Don't worry, this is just a mixture of vodka and some German sleep medication. You're all just going to pass out, and by the time you wake up, we'll be long gone." And so one by one, Pierre and William forcefully poured the drain cleaner into the hostage's mouth. And I want to highlight forcefully, because some people might think, if I'm in this situation and they're telling me I could just pass out.
No, this is some Jim Jones shit. Like, this is like, you don't have a choice. Like, I have a gun, I'm gonna make you drink it, or like.
Yes, yeah, they're not voluntarily thinking, okay,
yeah,
this will be over and quick, just get out of here. No, I mean,
yeah,
the documentaries that I watched, the officers that covered this case wanted to make sure that people knew they did not voluntarily just drink this drain.
No, why would you? It's fucking weird. No.
Yeah, and so, again, one by one, they forced it down the throats of every single hostage. Immediately, each of them started screaming and convulsing in pain, as you would probably expect, as the cleaner slowly worked its way through their intestinal tract.
Ugh.
Carol, she was the first to be forced to drink the cleaner, and then Stanley. So Carol is the mother of Courtney, the 16-year-old boy. And then Stanley, who is Orrin Walker's son. And then Courtney was the third to be forced to drink it. And as the 2 airmen worked their way to Michelle, it was clear to Orrin that this was not a sleep medication that they were forcing down their throats. Orrin knew that he had to resist swallowing the liquid in any way possible. And so by the time that Pierre had forced the cleaner into Orrin's mouth, Orrin had one option, which was to pretend to swallow it and then slowly let it seep out the side of his mouth, while at the same time screaming and convulsing in the same manner that everybody else.
Faking it. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's exactly what he did. Here's the issue with Pierre's drain cleaner plan, though. And that's that, unlike the movie, where the prostitute dies within seconds of drinking it, in real life, it doesn't happen that quickly.
Yeah.
And so Pierre thought, maybe it's because they're spitting it back up and throwing up and regurgitating their insides. Maybe that's why it's not killing them. So he figured what we need to do is tape their mouth shut so the liquid stays inside. But because of the amount of, I guess, liquid, quote unquote, you would say, coming out of their already vomiting mouths, they were unable to get any sort of tape to stick to the faces.
Yeah.
So that was their next step, was, well, let's tape their mouths shut. Idiots.
I remember this from when I've heard this episode
multiple
before,
times,
whatever. Like, so dumb.
Yeah.
So dumb.
So now, in sheer panic of not knowing why the hell it's taking so long for everyone to die, Pierre then goes to step 2. He pulls out his gun and shoots each and every victim in the back of the head. Beginning again with Carol, and then Stanley, and then Courtney. Now, sadly, prior to shooting Michelle, Pierre, as I mentioned before, did in fact sexually abuse her.
Yeah.
And then last person to be shot was Orrin. The struggle was now over. The hostages were no longer fighting to survive, and the 2 airmen could now finish what they had originally set out to do. That is, except for one thing, and that's that Orrin, miraculously, was still alive, and very much still aware of what was going on. Though having been shot in the back of the head, the bullet seemingly failed to do what Pierre intended it to do. And Orrin, knowing that Pierre had thought the job was done, he did everything he could do to lay as still as he could so that the 2 criminals would finally leave him alone. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, as Pierre had seen Orrin take a few small breaths. And after checking Orrin's pulse to realize he was still alive, Pierre grabbed a nearby electrical cord and attempted to choke Orrin with it. Orrin, for what he describes as God telling him it wasn't his time to go, simply would not succumb to Pierre's attempts to kill him. Though he was hardly fighting back at all, Orrin was still conscious of the struggle that was going on, and then the struggle that then stops for a moment. The tightness of the cord around his neck eases up a bit, as Pierre seems to be moving around above him now. He then feels Pierre's hands around his skull as Pierre begins to fit a ballpoint pen into his ear hole.
I knew it. This was the part. I was like, wait, did you forget about this? I knew there was a weird thing. Okay, ugh.
Pierre
Brace yourselves, everyone.
then stands up, puts the sole of his shoe onto the other end of the pen sticking out of Oren's ear, and stomps as hard as he can, jamming the pen into Oren's skull until it can't go any further.
I mean, obviously overkill, right? Obviously.
And
but
again,
like, you're psycho.
All this time,
You could've just shot him.
Oren is very well aware of what's going on.
Yeah. But at this point, after being shot in the head and your mouth full of Drano and shit, like,
I could just imagine your central nervous system doesn't even feel anything at that point.
You're just, especially if you're alive still, your body's, you're bobbly. You're bobbly. Your body is probably just keeping your eyes open at this point. That's the only thing it's doing.
Yeah.
That's the only thing left.
And so, if I remember correctly, Oren had described at some point being able to hear the pen in his ear and then obviously being stomped into his skull.
I thought just hearing an ear piercing was bad.
Well,
I can't even imagine.
It gets worse.
Okay.
Not the story. Well, the story, yes.
Yeah,
but
always.
The ear piercing, it can be worse than that.
Yeah.
So the struggle is now completely over. 5 victims, all left for dead, as Pierre Selby and William Andrews finish loading up the van with audio equipment valued at around $24,000.
Okay.
So,
in 74?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Yep.
Not, to me, in my own opinion,
What
not
is that,
enough
like
to kill 5
$100,000
people.
now or something? What is
Still
that?
not enough to kill 5 people.
No,
but-
because we're decent human beings. Of
True.
course not.
Yep.
There's people that kill each other over a fucking pack of cigarettes, of course.
True, yeah. So now hours pass until Oren, barely holding on to his life, was able to will himself up the basement stairs to a telephone.
Upstairs?
Yep.
Stairs is a bitch. that
Which he
even
then-
walking them is terrible.
So he gets
my
up there
God.
and he then calls 911.
Amazing.
Once emergency
Amazing.
services arrived, they immediately get to work, attempting to save as many of the victims as they could. Stanley Walker and Michelle Ansley were pronounced dead
Yeah.
upon arrival.
Ugh.
Carol and Courtney Nesbitt were still alive and transported to the hospital, where Carol eventually ended up passing as well.
Yeah, shit.
Now, 16-year-old Courtney Nesbitt, he was able to be saved, but suffered enough brain trauma during the incident that he was, I guess, deemed suffering from amnesia and unable to testify at the trial.
But he's still alive.
Yes.
Oh,
well,
okay.
not currently nowadays, but he lived longer. Yes. So he ended up passing away in 2002 of cancer, I believe.
Oh, shit.
From actually, he actually passed away living up here in Seattle too.
Wait, he survived that just to die from cancer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, listen, that is not the first time I've heard something like that before.
Yeah.
Where somebody lives through a fucking
Let life
tornado,
kick you while you're
being
down.
impaled by a cow or something, and then you die because you like hit a telephone pole or something,
Right,
like
yeah,
going
or
20 miles an
lightning
hour,
strikes
some
you or
weird
some
shit.
shit,
Yeah, or
yeah.
you're allergic to peanuts and you died at like an Applebee's or something,
Yeah.
like some weird shit.
So I think he was like 42 or something. Or something when he ended up
Damn.
passing. Yeah.
Even
Still really young,
That's
obviously.
insane.
Yeah.
I lived through a burglary and a torture and being shot in the head and drinking Drano, and then like cancer just takes me out.
And then you're like, oh,
before I'm even 50.
yes, it was my time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fuck.
He did.
Everyone.
He did recover enough though to graduate with his high school class and go on to college.
I mean, that's great and all, but damn.
yeah.
Do you happen to know, side note really quick, do you happen to know if he had kids or anything? If he like got married or anything?
I don't. Off the top of my head,
Okay,
I don't.
no, it's okay. I'm just wondering, like, that's so sad if he had kids and stuff. Like, okay.
So, Courtney, obviously, who we were just talking about, and Oren Walker were the sole surviving victims of this tragedy.
Well, kind of, right? Because, like, Oren was really the only surviving one for a long time, or did he die? When did Oren die?
good question. You know
Also,
what?
I can't
I
even
actually,
imagine,
I hate to say it, but I didn't follow up on Orrin for some
No, that's
reason.
okay. That's okay. Because I'm just like, okay, Courtney died, right? Like,
No, I do want to say Orrin has passed as well, and we'll double check.
you would think so, because this was like 50 years ago.
I was gonna say yeah, because he was in like 40 or something.
Yeah,
because
because his kid was young. Yeah. So that makes sense. But like, I mean, maybe they passed around the same time. I don't know, but like, that's just. I mean, you saw your kid die.
You're talking. I mean, even Courtney. It was 28 years after this instant.
That's still really good, right?
Yeah.
But like, still, you have all that trauma. You're probably not even close to healing, and then cancer gets you. Like, that's a bitch.
Yeah, that's
That is
tough.
a bitch.
Now, it only took a few days after this tragedy hit the newspapers for investigators to get a lead. It was a tip called in by, who would have guessed, a fellow airman of Pierre's. He said, I remember a couple months ago hearing Pierre say that he was going to rob the hi-fi shop.
You're so dumb.
And that he'd kill anybody that got in his way. So dumb.
So dumb.
Absolute
Thank
idiot.
God you're so dumb.
Yes,
but still,
actually, though.
You're so dumb.
Again, hey, criminals.
Yeah.
Don't tell people the crime you're going to commit and then commit it.
But please do.
But actually
because here
do
we
it.
are.
So,
yeah. Thank you for being fucking stupid. Appreciate it.
Now, without anything else but that tip, and obviously Pierre's like shady past, investigators thought they thought, let's keep an eye on this guy, rightfully so. And then there's a break in the case. 2 young boys who were aware of the recent murders and robbery, they were dumpster diving in the dumpsters on the Air Force Base, of which the 3 airmen who robbed the hi-fi store lived on.
I knew there's something to do with a dumpster. That was like way in the backs
were
of my
waiting for
mind.
it, you
I'm like, why
couldn't figure
is
it
there a
out?
dumpster in my brain right now?
Here it is. Or maybe you were just looking at me.
my
You were like,
dumpster
that is a
brain."
fucking dumpster fire right there. In this dumpster. What is it that they end up coming across? The wallets, purses, and IDs of all 5 victims.
So dumb.
Idiots.
Literally all in one spot. You couldn't even have like dumped it like
it gets
one
better.
in the bathroom, one in a field,
Yeah.
one at a truck stop. Like, you're so dumb.
It gets
You could have
better,
just thrown them out
so-
the window. We would have had better luck. Okay.
Yeah.
Once again, thank God you're dumb.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Pierre, and all you
Appreciate
other
it.
idiots. So that, along with the tip, was more than enough evidence to get a search warrant for Pierre's room in the barracks. Now, there's a report that says these investigators, they went to this dumpster and there was a massive crowd that gathered around it because they knew why they were going to that dumpster. News crews there pretty much, and the investigators purposefully made it kind of a show, saying, these are the people, and we're gonna find you. Any of you, if it's you, we will find you. And they said everybody, for the most part, was very much in shock, standing still, kind of, just except for 2 people.
Idiot.
Yep,
Fucking
Pierre and William,
idiots.
who were on their end of it, also making a weird, walking around, pacing, and making like, oh, this is fucking bullshit, or who in the world would kill, whatever. I don't know. Some sort of show that.
But obviously
that pointed,
enough to stand out.
Yes,
what were they doing?
Exactly. And now I looked into that fact, I guess, about the case as much as I could, and I couldn't find too many articles stating that this for sure did happen, but it wouldn't shock me. Right.
It could just be police that later were like, I could
retroactively
I
saying,
could tell it was those 2 people
exactly.
in the crowd.
It was
I could
obvious.
just tell.
My sheer investigative skills.
Or maybe they
told
were
me.
being fucking weird. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
true.
there was only 3 other people there and those people were being fucking weird. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
So now they have a search warrant for Pierre's room.
Okay.
And amidst the search, under the carpet in Pierre's bedroom, they find 2 pieces of paper. So, again, just under his little carpet in his bedroom.
Okay, so really quick. I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Did they like take up the carpet? Because this is
Tear
like
it up.
weirdly coming back to me, right? Like they like actually took up the carpet.
So,
Because like
I
in
know
some
what you're talking
corners
about.
they
Yeah,
looked
yeah.
weird.
Yeah,
right?
so I know basically what you're talking about. It wasn't like a carpet like our carpet where it's like, it's supposed to be almost like a permanent carpeting floor.
Like tucked in and
it
stuff.
was,
and
it was more of like a rug, I guess, at
okay.
least based on the documentary with the investigators that actually were doing the searching. But like you're talking about, they noticed that corners or ends of the rug look like the rug has constantly been lifted up and put back down.
Okay.
Like, and so what, if you have your bed on a rug and the carpet looks like it's folded up and moved a little bit, you're like, well, that only happens if you lift the bed up and move the carpet.
Right.
So that's what they did. And,
okay.
And they, under the rug, they find 2 pieces of paper.
And?
What are on those pieces of paper?
I don't know.
Well, the first one. Idiots.
Oh, no. What?
One of them is a flyer
no.
for the exact hi-fi shop.
Bro.
Off of Washington Boulevard.
Why are we keeping these things?
Yep.
Wait, a flyer? But, like, what do you mean by that? Like,
just like back in the 70s, like, just audio equipment here, specials or deals or just a flyer for the hi-fi shop.
Okay, let's just skip to the second piece real quick. What is the second piece?
The second piece is a receipt for a storage unit. That's not too far from where they exactly were.
So 2 things that you don't even need.
Yep.
Why would you need
trophies?
I
mean,
true.
I guess you could consider them
Obviously.
trophies. I mean, if you don't want to consider all the audio equipment trophies, so back to that piece of paper, that second receipt for a storage unit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Authorities, sure enough, say, well, let's go take a look. And in that storage unit, they find all of the equipment stolen from the hi-fi shop that night.
You might as well have just kept all the 5 people's IDs and shit in your under the carpet.
Yeah,
what is
I don't know
this?
how they got there.
What is this?
And among the equipment stolen was also a half-empty bottle of Drano, and obviously
God, when you kept the Drano,
their DNA all over the place.
Drano? What? Is it because they already paid for it and they're cheapskates?
Yeah.
They're like, well, actually, we might need this for our bathtub later.
Yeah, all this audio equipment we just stole, but
are we keeping the Drano? No. Also,
nothing goes to waste.
I was kind of talking shit for a second about the whole like dumpster diving. You're being stupid, but like, I don't think ever in my life have I ever dropped anything in a garbage and been like, I hope nobody goes dumpster diving for this. Like, never. Like.
Yeah.
Who does that?
There's been
goes
times where,
diving?
like, even with us, like, I typically shred all of our, I guess, pertinent documents for us, But in the past, I know that I've thrown away certain things where I'm like,
just because the chances are so slim,
of somebody digging through your specific trash or finding it in a field.
Not a public trash. Like, we have, like, a very, like, private.
Actual dumpsters. Yeah.
So maybe you feel better about it, but like maybe this wasn't a private one, so I wouldn't.
No,
I don't know.
I don't remember. This is getting really off topic, but also exactly on this topic. How recently I told the story of me dumpster diving, right?
For your own stuff.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
For your own stuff.
Yep. Because I was in a foggy state back then.
Anyway, just so weird. Why are we keeping these things? Once again, though, thank God.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So now, after having gone to trial, Pierre Selby and William Andrews were both convicted for 3 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated robbery. The getaway driver, Keith Roberts, was only given 2 counts of the aggravated robbery. They deemed him not complicit or not knowing that the murders or what was happening in the basement was going on.
Right, okay.
So Keith Roberts, he faced 5 years to life in prison and was paroled.
5 years to life? That is quite the ruler there.
Right? Like, hey, here's a slap on the wrist or you're locked forever.
Yeah.
Well, he was kind of in the middle. So he was eventually paroled in 1987.
Because he really could have been like, we're going to steal some speakers.
Yeah. And like I said, Pierre Selby was considered this ringleader, and he was the convincer to get everyone else. At least that's how the story goes. So in 1987, like I said, Keith Roberts, the getaway driver, was paroled. And then 5 years later, he ended up committing suicide.
Goodbye. Okay, great.
Pierre Selby was given the death sentence. and he was executed via lethal injection.
Oh.
Oddly enough, also in 1987, so the exact same year that Roberts actually got out
Utah,
on parole.
thank you, finally.
Yeah.
Some of these people in these states be 95 by the time they even be considered for being injected by anything.
So, interestingly enough, or I said this case sparked controversy across the nation, and the reason it was controversial was because the punishment that William Andrews was facing, which was also the death sentence. They, I guess, based not on only Pierre's testimony, but also the testimony of Orrin Walker, who was obviously alive and witnessed everything that happened in that basement. It was clear that Pierre was the mastermind of the entire ordeal, and that William was more of a yes man to whatever Pierre said he needed to do.
I take back what I said about the suicide. I was excited that he killed himself, but honestly, I'd rather him be alive and suffer in prison.
Right. Yeah.
So I take it back, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We want it worse.
I'd rather him be
escaping your problems.
I know. I'd rather him be suffering.
So although William did assist in forcing the Drano into the mouths of the victims, and I was telling a customer of mine this story yesterday, or maybe it was earlier today.
Ooh, customer in the champagne lounge.
Exactly. Actually. Anyways, I was finished up my second dance. And
the music stopped.
I was telling him about this situation and about, the controversy of William Andrews. And then we talked about how he forced the Drano down these guys' throats.
Right.
And I was like, that's attempted murder right there.
Yeah.
And the people ended up dying anyway. So I'm like, nah, fuck you. Like, you thought they were just going to die instantly.
Yeah.
And then when they didn't,
of course,
you let Pierre go ahead and take the next steps to do the shootings.
Yeah.
So
obviously, you meant for people to die regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I guess the defendants, they say that Pierre was the one who had shot them all, and that Pierre was the one who had sexually abused Michelle, and it was Pierre who had jammed the pen into the ear and skull of
Yeah,
Walker.
I mean, that's all extra fucked up.
Yeah, and so William Andrews, his lawyers, they attempted time after time to appeal the decision to sentence him to death, citing that other similar situations across the nation where a white criminal had been given a much more lenient penalty in, again, situations that were very close to what William was facing.
Got it.
So it's going to spark racial controversy.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't even want to know. I mean, granted, this is 50 years ago now almost.
Yeah.
Politics are still politics.
No, exactly.
And if you can take advantage of another person's troubles, I don't even want to know what the news
obviously
papers
is
said.
so sad, right? And this isn't a simple case of like one white guy was in charge of like stealing stuff from a house and a black guy was in charge of stealing. Like, this is
in my head, I'm like, if there was white guys that did something similar to William Andrews, then they should also be facing the death sentence.
Course.
Not like William Andrews should be getting a lesser sentence.
Anybody on the scale of the rainbow. I don't care if you're fuchsia, turquoise, black, white, whatever, freaking
if you're pouring Drano into people's mouths trying to kill them.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Which obviously, once again, 50 years ago, whatever it is. But now, I mean, I hope you guys listen. I hope we're all on the same equality page where we hate everyone the same. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, that's how much, we're across the board. Like, you're all pieces of shit. We're all pieces of shit.
Yeah, everyone's got something going on.
But especially the Drano, the pen, and all that.
You're a fucking piece of shit.
No.
Yeah.
You're terrible.
So, William Andrews' lawyers, thank God, were unsuccessful in their appeals.
Yeah, no.
And on July 30th of 1992, William Andrews was executed as well by lethal injection. So 5 years after Pierre.
Tough.
And it was 9 days later after that Keith Roberts then killed himself.
Okay.
So
we just... July, what was it?
July 30th, 1992.
Oh,
so we're coming up
the 30th?
on the 30th anniversary of your
this
death.
piece of shit.
Now,
I will be drinking.
I'll tell you
I
what,
mean, anyway, I'll be drinking anyway. But
I will be sensitive to the families even of William Andrews and Pierre.
Oh, yeah,
because
that's different.
They did say that William spent his last days, with his family. I think he had like a daughter and just people that cared about him.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's tough. I can't put myself in the footsteps
unless the families are also pouring Drano down people's heads and shit and stomping ballpoint pens in people's skulls.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing that, then I feel bad for you. I can't even imagine if my brother, sister, mom, dad, whatever was accused of
it's
this
one of
and
those
charged.
situations where
It's embarrassing. That's sad. That's like all the things.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
obviously
has nothing to do
you're
with
going to lose
them.
a family member.
Yeah.
Whether it's to prison or
Right.
to lethal injection.
Yeah.
So.
And then also the embarrassment that comes along with it too. Just
Right.
saying, like
Yeah.
I can't
The
even
namesake.
imagine that. I would
Yeah.
change my name, get surgery, move to Guatemala. Bye.
Yeah, there you go.
See you never.
There you go. So, yeah, I mean, we are coming up on 30 years, which I actually didn't realize that until you just said it. So thanks for that.
Well, we're coming
Christian.
up on 50 years in 2 years, right? 94 or 74, right?
Right.
It'll
Of
be
the actual
50,
incident
Yeah,
itself.
in a couple
Yep.
years it'll be a 50-year anniversary of super sad event. But then, yeah.
Yeah, which
And at the end of this month
that's
is
really weird. I mean, the 70s doesn't seem like it's 50 years
No,
ago.
not at all. Especially when
That's
there's
really
like
weird.
70s themed birthday parties and shit, and we're showing up all cute as
Yeah.
hippies and stuff. And we're like, oh, there's,
Groovy, baby.
yeah. Well, that's a little bit earlier, but still same-ish,
Well, he
you
travels.
know? Yeah, he's a time traveler, yeah. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. That's pretty much where this story ends. I mean, they're all dead. I think pretty much everybody in this situation.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, no.
You
Hold
would
on.
think Oren, right? Pretty much.
I
You would
want
think
I
he
want
would
to check
be.
on that real quick,
Double
and
check
I'm going to do
Oren.
it live right here, right now.
Whoa.
Screw it, we'll do it live.
Do, do, do,
Yes. Keep
do, do.
What is Oren Walker? Sure enough,
Do.
obituary.
Oh,
so yes,
fuck.
he is.
How old is he though when he died?
Oh, he died in 2000.
Oh shit!
So even
not even that
before
old.
Courtney,
So
yeah.
26 years after.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
but
and-
Courtney and him didn't know each other, right?
So he was 70 years old when he passed. Oren Walker
okay,
was.
still a good life.
Lived a
I
good
mean,
life,
not
yeah. Well,
okay.
I
Well,
lived a longer life.
yeah,
Long life.
yeah.
I don't want to say
Because you saw your kid get killed, so
you saw and not just killed, but that's the
tortured.
So Courtney too. Courtney had to watch his mother get tortured and shot
Yeah,
because
and then she died
was
later.
the first one to
Yeah.
be shot.
And can you imagine that hope being like, oh, she's alive and we're
Right.
gonna live through this, and then she died like how many days later, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and so I remember there was also a report where Courtney's dad was like, I was shocked that that Carol was even able to be transported to the hospital.
Yeah,
He was like, from
as you would be.
Yeah, the
And
description.
I'm still amazed that anybody made it upstairs, you guys. I'm out of breath 3 steps up. I can't even imagine being tortured and swallowing Drano and being shot in the head and ballpoint pens. And how am I dragging my ass upstairs and then making a phone call?
That's
and
that
then
fight or flight type deal, though. But
True,
So,
true.
and this again is where Oren, who was a man of faith before this happened,
Oh,
said that
okay.
this is just that was God, like I said, telling him it wasn't his time to go, but it was time for his son to go. Which is
I just
a weird
listened.
thing
Sorry,
to-
guys, one more time. Side note. Not the last time ever, but last time for now. Dateline. I just listened to
Yeah.
an episode this morning about this like Christian couple, and I'm not hating on anybody or anything, right? Because I'm like, I don't believe in anything, but I believe in everything, right? Kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know. There's no face, no names, right? Kind of thing. And this couple was like, yeah, we love Jesus. And then this lady got fucking attacked, right? So she went on this evening walk. Tell me why this motherfucker, this husband, was like, oh, it's been 7 hours since my wife went on an evening stroll. Maybe I should call the
Go
cops.
check on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other side note, right? But anyway, so then they end up finding her the next day off some beaten path on this trail, and she's barely clinging to life.
Jesus.
She survives.
Actually, Jesus.
Yeah. Yes. So she survives. Amazing, right? And they're being interviewed by the love of my life, Keith Morrison, okay? And he's just like, wow, you guys are so strong, right? Like this whole thing, right? And he's like, you guys are amazing. Is it your faith that keeps you going? Whatever. And they're like, yeah, we love Jesus and all this stuff. And then, listen to this. Keith Morrison goes, and you guys, if that wasn't enough, The husband gets diagnosed with cancer a year later and is given 3 years to live. And I'm like, bitch,
Wow.
literally, she just got almost murdered. And then the husband gets diagnosed with cancer, like right after that. And they're like, we love God. And I'm like, that's amazing. Amazing.
To tie it back, thank you for the
amazing
microdose right there. I love that. But to tie it back to
that's the whole episode.
This case, earlier I was saying Courtney died from cancer. It was actually an undisclosed illness that he was dealing with for a long time.
Well,
so
either way,
in my head,
still sad.
I went straight to cancer.
Yeah, who knows? Honestly,
I don't wanna, yeah.
There's so many things that it could be. So either way, it's super sad. But damn, it's one of those things too. If you could go back and interview him and almost interview his ghost. Now it sounds so silly, but like this might not even be something you would realize until maybe you're gone, kind of thing. But like, did you even want to live? Your kid's gone. Yeah. You have all this, like, you're fucked up, like you're fucked
you're talking about
up
right now.
Yeah. Like I can't even imagine. Yep. Like I feel like I would have rather just died. I mean, but that's just me.
The trauma that I don't care, even if you're Courtney and you can't really remember any of it.
Yeah.
Your brain has it stored somewhere.
And even if you're a person of faith.
Yeah.
I feel like you still have that somewhere.
You
can rely on God all you want or whatever you want. Some people turn to alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. It's still stored somewhere. Yeah.
And how do you live your life? I mean, obviously people figure out how to do it, but
of course, because obviously he like lived on, but how much quality was in that life?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fear that you might have anywhere you went.
Or just the emptiness.
The flashbacks. I could not imagine the
shit you had to hear, the sounds,
exactly.
Like, I'm good.
The recovery of it alone. Okay, yeah. Anyways, I hope everyone enjoyed that.
I'll never look at Drano the same.
I feel good. I'm back on the mic, ladies and gentlemen. Spitting it for y'all. I figured we should
that was uncalled
fucking
for,
end this shit. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just get out of here.
Okay, goodbye. Okay.
Goodbye.
Well, before we do, again, you guys, you can find us. We've got a link tree, I think, up on our Instagram now. So if you want to watch us or listen to us on other platforms, you can find those. Or if you want to send us an email, you can find that info on there as well.
Yeah, Riley ignored me for a whole hour making that thing, so you better go use the hell out of it.
That's right.
To make it worth it.
I'm sorry, were you talking again?
Oh, here we go.
Oh.
Here we go, guys.
And go follow us on Instagram. Christian's always posting cool stuff.
Well, not always, but I try.
And interesting stuff for all of you true crime fans.
And dog stuff, Tito.
And dog stuff, yes.
Widow Tito.
That's right. And again, for the last time, you can go on Spotify, leave a rating. You can go on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and a review. Mm-hmm. And if you do leave a review, I'm most likely going to read it. Good, bad, indifferent.
Wherever there's a spot for stars or words, just do it.
That's right.
Yep.
Gold star for you.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, this has been another episode of the True Crime Banter podcast, and we will talk to you in the next one.
Catch you on a flippity flip.
Goodbye.